Hey y'all. Today's lesson is about savings and investments. Savings and investment. It's about money, basically. And I think that this is one of those lessons where when am I going to use this in life? That you definitely could relate to it. Because I bet your parents and other family members that you know are saving and investing their money in interest. So I feel like there's a lag, but maybe. So first, let's look at some vocabulary. Simple interest is money, interest that's paid on a fixed amount. Interest that's paid on a fixed amount of money. So simple, it's just you get so much percentage of interest each time on a fixed amount. That fixed amount is called the principal. The principal, that's what that fixed amount is called. And I'll tell you about that. Compound interest is paid on the original amount, also called the principal, plus the interest. So what makes compound interest different is each year when you earn interest, that's added to your original amount, and then interest is built on that, and then added back, and then more interest and more interest. And so it's including all the interest you've earned every so often is put back in with that original amount, and so you're earning interest at a higher rate, essentially, with compound interest. Compound interest is the one that'll eventually get you more money. Simple interest, just if you start with $500, then you get interest on $500, $500, $500 every year. That's what it means by a fixed amount. All right, so I'm going to give you both of these formulas, and I highly recommend you take good notes on these formulas so you understand all the parts, and then you're going to use these when we do our problems. So for simple interest, here's the formula. I equals PRT, and that's times. P times R times T. I'm going to tell you what they are. Any guesses? I stands for interest. P is the principal, and that's like your original amount, how much you start with, like how much you deposit or how much you invest. R is your rate, and T is your time. And a couple of things, your rate, we need to make sure we put it as a decimal, and your time has to be in years. Your time has to be in years. So not decades and not months, but years. And you multiply principal times rate times time, and that's going to give you your interest. Now, if you want your balance, which means your total, you would have to add your principal plus your interest. Your principal plus your interest will give you your balance for simple interest. Okay? Now, compound, don't get scared. Compound interest formula is a little bit tricky, but I will walk you through it, and I'm even going to show you on the calculator how to do that, because you're going to need to use your calculator. So compound interest starts like this. A equals, I'm going to tell you what they all mean, P times 1 plus R over N, close parentheses, raised to the power NT. I know. You're like, what? I'll tell you. So A stands for account balance. So that means your total. Like, this is your total. Because it's the amount plus the interest every year, it just gives you your, when you calculate compound interest, that gives you your total. You already have it. P is principal. Principal. 1 is just like a regular 1. R is your rate as a decimal. And N is going to represent number of times, number compounded. Number of times compounded. And what that means is it's compounded different times of the year. For example, if it says compounded monthly, then the N would be 12 because there's 12 months in a year. If the example was compounded quarterly, then it would be 4 because there's 4 quarters in a year. And so the N represents the number of times it's compounded. And that means like added together. And then raised to the N, again, which is the number of times compounded times the years in time. Oops, time. And that's times. I know that's a lot. I will go through step by step. Just trust me. I will go through step by step. Okay, example 1. Yolanda deposits $300 into an account that earns 4.5 simple interest. And see, it says the word simple. Underline that. Calculate the interest Yolanda will earn after 6 years. So because we're talking about simple, I'm going to just start with my formula. I equals P times R times T. She deposited $3,000, so that is my principal. My rate is 4.5%, but we need to write that as a decimal, so we move it over twice. That would be 0.045. And my time in years is 6 years. So then in our calculator, I'm going to show you, I'm going to just type in 3,000 times 0.045 and then times 6. Now notice I didn't even use a multiplication symbol right there because I put parentheses around it. And my interest, again, this is interest, I'll put it right there maybe, is $810. So that's how much interest Yolanda earned, and that was my question, how much interest? If I wanted to know how much total she had, I would add these two together, and she has $3,810 total, but my question was just asking for interest. I was looking at my timer, okay? So example 2, Marcus deposited $3,000 into an account, same interest rate, 6 years, but this one says compounded monthly. Circle that or highlight that. Compounded monthly. How many months are in a year? 12. So that is our N is 12. N is 12. Our P is 3,000. Our rate is 4.5%. And our T is 6 years. So there I've shown you all the variables and compounded monthly, and there are 12 months in a year. So that's why our N is 12. So determine the total and determine the interest. So we're finding two things in this problem. So we need to start with our formula. So copy the formula down, and then we fill in the numbers, 3,000. The rate as a decimal is 0.045, and the N is 12, and then 12 times 6. Okay, so this is probably the most complicated part, is how to do this in your calculator without typing something in wrong or losing track of numbers. And we don't want to start rounding, because if you start rounding early, you're going to be off. So go ahead and do this is 72. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my calculator. I hope you can see that good. So we're going to type it in. First thing we type in is 0.045 divided by 12. And then I'm going to add 1 to it on my calculator. Notice that's the first thing I'm doing is my parentheses, my grouping. I'm following the order of operations. Now the order of operations says parentheses and then exponents. So I need to raise this number. Don't do anything with the 3,000 yet. I need to raise this number to the 72nd power because it's 12 times 6. So I'm just raising it, and I push this little button right here, raising it to the 72nd power. Now I need to multiply all of that times 3,000. Okay, so that is the amount that Marcus has. His account balance is $3,927.91. That is his account balance. That was the first question. Determine his account balance. The second question says, then determine how much interest. Well, if this is how much he has total, he started with 3,000. We need to subtract $3,000. So his interest was $927.91. That's how much interest he had. And again, I subtracted $3,000. I hope you have your calculator with me because this could be difficult without your calculator. Okay, and then the last thing says compare the interest in example 1 and example 2. So in example 1, we had $810. In example 2, we had $927.91. So obviously, Marcus had more. So how much more? $927.91 minus $810. So Marcus earned $117.91 more than Yolanda. Notice they both started with $3,000. They had the same rate and the same years, 6 years, 6 years. Marcus earned more because it was compounded monthly. Yolanda's was just simple interest. Okay. So, right here, example 3. Calculate the interest earned. So again, it's asking us about interest. Circle the word interest. I'm going to slide it under my laptop. There. 4,700 is deposited, so that's my P, into an account that earns 3.25 simple interest, that's my R, for 7 years, that's my T. So because this has the word simple in it, this is simple interest, I equals P times R times T. So I type in, remember, change that to a decimal. This is like right in my eye. And then 7 years. I'm going to type all that into my calculator, and I've already done it. My interest for this problem is, where's my interest? $1,069.25. So that's the amount of interest you would earn if you deposit $4,700 simple interest for 7 years. Now, part B is $6,480 is deposited, that 5.5 compound interest, and compounded semi-annually. Highlight or underline or circle the word semi-annually. Semi-annually means twice a year. Semi-annual means twice a year for 5 years. So here's my T. If it's twice a year, that means my N is 2 because it's going to compound twice a year. Here's my beginning amount, my original amount, and my rate is 5.5%. So I start with that crazy formula. The more you write it, you'll remember it. And I'm glad I have room down here. I put in my principal. 1 plus my rate as a decimal, 0.055, over my N. How many times is it compounding? And it's compounding twice, so my N is 2. And then N times T, so my N is 2, and my T is 5 years. So let's go ahead, 2 times 5 is 10. And then I'm going to, from this step, I'm going to go into my calculator, and I'm going to show you what I type in. So follow along with me. First, I have to do my grouping, my parentheses. So 0.055 divided by 2, and then plus 1. So there is my parentheses. Now I need to raise it to the 10th power. And then I can multiply by 6,480, and this is my account balance, $8,499, and we would round this to 50 cents. That is my total. That's how much money I have in the account, but the question, I believe, was interest. So to find the interest, we need to subtract out our original amount, subtract out that original amount, and so my interest on this 6,480 was $2,019.50. So that is the amount of interest that we earned. So we can't really compare them because we started with different amounts, but compound interest can be a little bit harder. Okay. Alrighty, so example 4 and example 5. I don't know how long this is going to be. It's 15 minutes. So this is a you try. So pause the video, try them on your own, especially with the calculator, and then press play. All right, so you try is simple interest. 5,000 interest. So this is 5.25, so 0.0525. 4 years. I already did this one, and it was 1,050 is your interest, and then the ending balance is you have to add your interest to your principal, so the ending balance is 6,050. So there are your answers for you try 4, interest and balance. The interest, and then, because this is simple interest, so all it gives you is interest. So you have to add it back to the principal. And then you try 5 is a compounded monthly. So if it's compounded monthly, my N is 12. So A equals 5,001 plus 0.0525 over 12 times 12. How many years? 4 years. So again, 12 times 4 is 48. So I will show you on my calculator again. 0.0525 divided by 12 plus 1 to the 48th power times 5,000. So my account balance is $6,165, and you would round that up to 57 cents. Now that's my account balance. I don't know. Then determine the total, then determine how much interest. So to find my interest, I need to subtract out my original. So I just subtracted out 5,000, and that means interest was $1,165.57. Okay? I know this was fast, but just trust me. Make sure you have your notes tomorrow, because we'll practice simple and compound interest.